You're the reason we can move forward. All right, it's 5:41 and I'll call the meeting to order and ask Sandra to record the attendance. If you haven't had the chance to yet do so, please review the agenda for tonight's meeting. Now, as a reminder, we have 2 meetings scheduled for tonight. This is our regular meeting, and at the conclusion of this meeting, we will have our informational meeting. And we will approve those agendas separately. So I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for this meeting after you've had a chance to review.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you much. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to Article 3, approval of the minutes of March 15, 2022. These were circulated with the packet last week. Take a look through if you haven't yet already, and then I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on. Article 4. It's that point of the meeting where we acknowledge visitors and those wishing to speak to non-agenda items. We asked that our visitors limit their comments to 5 minutes per speaker. So I will open up the floor to those who would like to make public comment. And I understand we have a participant on Zoom who may want to make public comment at this time. So I'll leave it to you to make that happen.
Can you hear me?
Sure can. Is that Mr. Merlin?
It is indeed.
Welcome.
Can you see me?
I don't see you, but hold on a moment.
It may be better for you guys, actually.
Let's just say we do see you.
Okay, you see me as you expect to see me. Anyway, just one quick comment, which is, this is the first DDA meeting that I've attended. You say we can speak to non-agenda items. Does that mean that we can speak to agenda items when they arise under the agenda?
Actually, my interpretation of that section is that visitors can speak about anything, and then our presenters who are here in the room, if they wanted to speak to non-agenda items, this is the time for them to do that. We have some members of the community who will be speaking to items like, for example, the library project, and they will speak to that project at the proper time. So if you have agenda items that you would like to comment on, you are welcome to do so now as well.
Okay, I'd like to comment on 2 of the agenda items. The first is one that has been bothering me for years, which is, you note here the approval or review the 2021 annual report. And the annual report is meaningless for anyone in the public. So what is it there to do? I mean, we would expect to see an annual report of what the DDA has been about, what its goals for next year are, and a bit on its financial results for the year. That's what I would have gotten from Right Place and in the past, and from other organizations similar to the DDA. But this is just, looks like it's an annual report for filing with the state of some sort, but not meant to tell the public much of anything. Can you help me understand what those 3 pages of whatever they are?
Well, I believe that that is something that we'll be covering during our informational meeting in the next portion, if I'm looking at the correct agendas. And the annual report, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sandra, is something that is filed with the state, and it's something that we're required to do by statute.
Yeah, this is Article 9 of this meeting. And so I take it the DDA does not put out an annual report for the citizens of Cascade.
I do not believe that we have done that, no, historically.
I would just suggest that it might be a helpful item to think about for future years, because given the breadth of the DDA going all the way down to Patterson, it tells us what you are trying to accomplish with the 28th Street corridor, as well as a portion of the Cascade corridor and Centennial Park. And we are in the dark about that.
Well,
And
I appreciate that comment. And actually, I think that as part of the strategic planning process, that's something that will fold into what the DDA does as an outcropping of that whole process. And so you'll be seeing a lot more information from us once that is finalized.
okay, and then hopefully in future years going forward. The other question that I just like to raise is, while very much enjoying what the library item is, or the library pictures that I see here, the one question I have is, why isn't there a lovely tree, in essence, barrier to 28th Street, so that kids can play, with some trees and shrubs in there to cut the sound from 28th Street, to make it more of a contemplative place where you can sit and read? It just strikes me that trees and shrubbery there along the road would be a very natural thing to include in that. Just a thought.
Thank you. And I'll put a pin in that for discussion during our next article. Did you have any other comments?
Did not.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Anyone else have any comments? All right, then, moving on to Article 5, Cascade Branch of the KDL presentation of outdoor space. Welcome, and we're
Thank
glad to
you.
have you here.
Thank you. I'm Vanessa Wallstra. I'm the regional manager here at the Cascade Township Library. Thanks for inviting me to come and talk about our outdoor space idea. The outdoor space idea has been coming about over the last few years. Our Friends of the Library group is extraordinarily active. We have between 500 and 700 hours of volunteer time every month with our Cascade friends. And they take donations of books and they sell them online, and they sell them in our bookstore and on book sales. And they've managed to raise a good deal of money. And they've been looking for a way to invest in a longer term with higher impact way. They give generously to our programs every year, of course, but they want to have a lasting impact. So we've been looking for something for them to invest in that would have benefit for the general community and the library as well. We've been watching as families over the last few years have been using our outdoor space as it exists, even though it's not actually set up very well for people to use. But kids and their parents and their grandparents will do picnics in our parking lot in the little green spaces. They will muck around the library, even though there's all sorts of water issues. They want to go into the forested areas, even though there's poison ivy and all sorts of brush in there. And so one of the things we started looking into was, could we actually make that space, which is really lovely, more usable for our patrons and the residents of Cascade? And so in conjunction talking to Ben Swayze, we got permission to have a master plan drawn up. And we looked at a variety of different places to do that master plan. And we landed on one that we really, really loved, which is called Native Edge. Native Edge is a local firm that specializes in ecologically inspired designs. They actually, one of the local things that they've done is the Calvin Nature Preserve, if you've ever been to that area. And we asked them to consider designing a space for us, a master plan for a space that people could use to safely gather, surrounded by natural beauty. That we could have larger events like story times and book clubs in, that we could have maybe special events like concerts hosted, that people, particularly the children that come to the library, could explore and learn from the outdoors, where families could picnic, and that it be a design that would be environmentally sound. And we believe that the plan that they've given us is all those things and more. We were really thrilled with the plan that they gave us. And I have, I believe you have, you received information, but I'll put some down on the document cam just to kind of review for you the highlights. This shows you the entire space. So of course, this is the library. And There is a door that currently functions as an emergency exit that we could easily convert into an indoor-outdoor door. There's also a space here that would come off of our existing sidewalks that could go into that area. We wanted to make sure accessibility was considered as part of this. So you'll see that in this area all around, there are wide sidewalks where people could go utilize it so it's accessible to all people, and it could also be used for walking paths for people as well. The Friends of the Library are looking right now at funding the first phase. This came in 3 different phases, 3 main phases. The first phase is this section around here. So it goes from the current sidewalk out through the forested areas. I'm going to give you the sort of closer look. This first circle here is the circle that we're looking at as having place for like a story time or a book club or any kind of event that we would have here. The circle to this side, we're looking at adding pavers, so that would be a space where people could have picnics or just get together and talk, or they could study outdoors. We're thinking tables and chairs and umbrellas and that kind of thing in that space. The circle to this side, we're looking at having perennial gardens. Native Edge focuses very specifically on native plants, not only because they're native to the area, but they survive better and need less intervention. So in this area, we're looking at a perennial garden with a fountain. And these darker areas around these spaces are intended to be built in benches, so people could sit and just enjoy the space. There's another perennial garden in here that we're looking at. And this area right here is we're looking at a water garden. It wouldn't be standing water, even though there's standing water there now. It would be plants that were intended to soak up the water, and we would do some additional drainage in that space as well. In this area that is forested, there would be some additional trees planted in there. And the idea would be that we would create walking paths that would wind into small natural spaces that kids could explore and just play in. So there's a variety of paths here. We also looked very specifically at like whether we would want a fence or something like that to keep kids in the area. And the recommendation they had was to create barriers, natural barriers, by adding additional plantings of trees and shrubs all along the edges there. It would be prettier, it would be more environmentally friendly, and it would serve the same type of purpose. So you can see that these areas would naturally create outlines to the space as well. That's primarily the first phase that the Friends of the Library are looking at funding in its entirety. The second phase is beyond the student area here, and there are 2 options that they printed up for us. We wanted a space that we could potentially host like a concert or something bigger in. The concept here is a pavilion surrounded by additional perennial gardens and then 2 green spaces on either side. There's another option we wanted to consider, which was the idea of having an amphitheater, which would be with a wider green space. We like both options actually as a library, probably slightly prefer this one because you could have races or that kind of stuff on this green space. And if you had concerts, there's built-in seating and whatnot. But as I said, we really enjoy both designs very well. And then the third phase goes all the way around the library. So you can see in this picture, these all are accessible sidewalks. The third phase would extend the sidewalk all the way around the library, so you could walk all the way around. It would extend out some of the perennial gardens to go along the side of the building. And it would create additional spaces for tables and chairs and that kind of thing. So people could do, again, they could picnic, they could study, they could just relax. And then in these areas, this is right now a basin that's just for water retention. It's just grass at this point. And so Native Edge is recommending having essentially prairie lands with very targeted types of flowers planted within there, seeded within there as well. So that if you were sitting in this area here or anywhere along this area, you could look over the detention pond area and it would be a beautiful thing to look at. They also have said that it would be possible to add that prairie into this section on the side, which is owned by the township, and this section back here, which is part of the reason we don't have necessarily trees along that area or along 28th Street. That doesn't mean that we couldn't have trees along that area, but this here, they're looking at, the design was looking at adding more of the prairie area with additional pathways that kids could explore. There are a couple of things in this third phase that would be possible complications if we did the prairie grass, one of which is the 4th of July celebration. But that is, there are other lands that we could use for that celebration, or we could choose not to add that additional grass prairie kind of thing on this outer edge. So that is the general gist of the plan. I believe she included cost estimates for you as well. We are looking for additional donors or investors in the phase 2 and phase 3 of the plan. There was a question at the township board. We were able to present this to the full township board last week. There was a question about why the cost comes in kind of lower than you might anticipate. And a large piece of that is that much of these are simply plantings. They're just very, very designated plantings to create these spaces. So that's one of the reasons that the cost might be a little bit lower. And this is also, these are midline estimates. So if you wanted to, for instance, have a top of the line pavilion, the estimate might be higher. But that's the overview of the outdoor space. And we're excited to see if we can move forward on it and utilize it better for our community. Does anyone have any questions for me about that?
Questions from the board? I think it looks just wonderful.
Yeah, too. We love it. Thank you.
Nice options.
I have no notes.
I guess I have one question, because, you know, this expanded space allows you to do more in term from a programmatic standpoint.
Yes.
Who would manage all of that? I mean, is there someone within the library staff that would, you know, sort of event plan, manage all of those things on an ongoing basis?
So right now, the library functions in many ways kind of like a recreation department for the township. We do programming almost every day of the week, certainly the weekdays. And so what we anticipate is in the 3 seasons that we would find ways to hold many of those programs outside as the weather allows. And if we were able to do something like having concerts, we have special events in the summer as well that we think we could use the amphitheater for, and we could also try to use that space for additional concerts or that kind of thing.
So you're absorbing this extra into the existing staff, and there's people
Yes,
that
the
already do some of
expectations.
these.
In fact,
Sure.
at certain times, because people like to gather outside, we've actually had some of our outdoor events in the spaces as they exist.
Yeah.
They're just not nearly as accessible as we would like, and not
Sure.
nearly as beautiful. But yeah.
Thanks.
Would buildings and grounds have any role with maintenance of parts of this developed plan?
We would anticipate the building and grounds would. We are looking into with Native Edge. The first couple of years are apparently the most important as far as getting everything to seed well and whatnot. So we're investigating the possibility of what would the cost be for instance, the Friends to cover the cost of Native Edge, taking care of the landscape for the first couple of years when it's most critical. And then Native Edge has said that much of it can be taught to any kind of building and grounds crew. It comes down to, we'd be eliminating almost all of the mowing in that area. The water retention would be significantly reduced. So it would be mostly trimming and weeding that we would be looking at.
And one thing that came up at the board meeting was the Friends of the Library have such a great organized, active group of volunteers, that 1 or 2 volunteer groups a year could make a big dent in
Yes.
dividing and weeding
Right.
perennials and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
It would be really fun to see some of those sculptures that we have here or at Tassel Park in this.
Yes.
I could
Oh,
totally see
yeah.
those. there.
Mhm.
I don't know where those came from, if they were donated or if they
Yeah.
were, they're just so cool.
I think most of them, I know that the ones here were donated primarily, but yeah, there's that, I would be interested in having some of those
That would
things
be really
incorporated
neat,
too.
yeah.
Mhm.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Other questions?
Love it.
Nope.
I'm not sure that we need to vote on this, but
We don't. It was
Okay.
more to gauge some interest tonight from the DDA, and maybe we can have further discussion at another meeting if you guys are interested in, partnering or, providing some financial support. So,
certainly keep us in the loop as you are phasing out and coming up with your budget so that we can make determinations about how we can help
Mhm.
at those stages of the project.
Wonderful. Thank you so
So
much.
who makes the final decisions on, okay, go forward or not?
That's a
and
township.
Do we do phase 1, 2, 3? Because I gotta believe there's cost savings if you just do it all at one time.
So right now, the issue is the Friends of the Library is 100% ready and able to fund phase 1.
Okay,
So it doesn't require township. The only reason it would require township approval, because the township's not spending any money, is because it's a township owned property and it's use of that property. So the township's agreeing to allow the use of it.
I guess one comment I have is the prairie grass along next to where Noto's there. I question the practicality in that space right there.
Which
Yeah.
space is that?
Well, across the street, there's a good sized chunk of property that abuts the parking lot of Noto's, and on the diagram, they've recommended prairie grass. In my opinion, just having it a mowed lawn next to a
Mhm.
established business, it would look better, but that's my opinion.
That's a phase 3.
That's a phase 3 thing.
Okay.
Yes. Also in phase 3, they're recommending, of course, for environmental reasons, it's better to have those pieces and parts, but it isn't something that has to be done. They're making that recommendation and then it can be decided differently.
Was the amphitheater in the presentation that was
That's,
given to the board, or was that?
it was you had both possibilities in
So I
that
remember that
presentation board. Mhm.
Grace, has the board given this project its blessing, or is that still something under review?
I heard only positive, enthusiastic. So if they were against it, they were the minority and they were silent.
I think it's a great project. I
Mhm.
think the gentleman that was on Zoom had a good point of, do we want a good barrier between the road and this landscaping?
Right, and I like the idea of using the natural elements to provide that barrier to the
Mhm.
extent that we can, so that it's not, it's because then you can see the beauty from the road and it would
Right.
draw people in as opposed to seeing a big
Right.
fence, so.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's just nice for drivers too. I always kind of wonder that. It kind of looks like a scorched bump. Not that it's bad, but it just could be so much
No,
better.
but it dries out during the summer. It does actually dry out in the summer. It gets kind of,
I always
Yeah.
wondered if the township was waiting to, I don't know, it just seems like a good use of space that doesn't take a lot of space that could have a big impact
Mhm.
buffer.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward
Okay.
to this moving forward. It seems as though everybody here is excited about it,
Good.
so.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I don't think we've heard
Thank you.
one negative
I don't
comment.
think we have, no. So
Cross our
I'm excited.
fingers.
We're very excited at the library to try and make use of it. Space is at a premium. Kids are coming and staying longer. Some kids will come in and say, I just wish I could stay all day. And sometimes it feels like they do actually stay all day, which is good. That's what we love. But we also know that they kind of move from place to place. We had a child come in the other day and say, they draw you in with the books, but we stay for the fish tank. And so we're hoping that having an outdoor space is an additional thing for these families to really stay and enjoy.
How wonderful.
Really well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, further discussion by the board about this item? Doesn't sound like there's really anything more to discuss at this point, but this will be exciting to watch. All right, moving on then to Article 6, discuss and consider the landscape planting and maintenance bids.
All right, thank you. So as you know, we talked about this at our March meeting and we had received 2 bids at that point. And the DDA felt it was important to expand our search. And so we sent the RFP back out to additional landscape companies. We did receive 2 more, so a total of 4. You can see they are listed in the packet, and Daylily and ProCut were partnering, which is why there's 5 listed out. But Daylily was doing the planters, ProCut was doing the landscape bed. So Renee and Michelle reviewed the proposals and are making the recommendation that we split the bids, if you will, one for the planters, one for the landscape bed. Daylily for the planters and Mill Creek Farms for the landscape bed. I did put the proposals in your packet. So you have the drawings, you have the cost proposals in there. I did speak with all of the companies. ProCut was very disappointed that they were not selected with Daylily. So they just felt like they're part of the community, and they were really looking forward to, being a partner with Daylily. And so he was fairly disappointed, didn't want to be cut out if there were future projects, which I assured him, we would certainly keep him in the loop for any future projects. So, but I think, and maybe Michelle and Renee can address it a little bit as far as, the selection, but certainly Daylily is a Cascade business. I think that was a big reason that they were selected. And then correct me if I'm wrong. And
Yeah,
like I said, you guys can address it, but Mill Creek Farms, I think it was just more, they like the design better. They like the plantings in that landscape bed. So I'll let you guys talk further.
Yeah,
on
that you
but-
pretty much said what we kind of
Yeah,
discussed. So
you
Daylily was the
summarized it
only
well.
local, and the one that we picked for the landscape down by the gas station, they had a better hardscape. It looked a little bit more solid than the rest of the others.
And half the cost.
And yeah.
Thanks for heading that up. It's a great job.
Kudos. Any questions for anyone on the committee?
I have to go. I'm sorry, because there's a concert at school that's going to be riveting. But
So how about, would you like to make a motion on this landscape bid project before you leave?
well, only if other people, is it premature?
I didn't see anyone leaping forward with comments or questions, so.
I didn't make a motion to approve as presented in the attached memo with a big fat thank you.
I second motion.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks very much.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck with your logistics.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you need anything further from us, Sandra? You've got this taken care of.
I do. I will, I'll get with them tomorrow to confirm. I do have to get with Citgo because if you remember, there's a
Right.
small portion on their property, so.
So do we need to do we have an easement with Citgo then?
We
for
don't.
that, or they're
We should
just-
probably get some type of
Something in
document
writing.
with them, right?
Our
Yeah.
lawyer is here.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So maybe he can help us.
There you go.
So we'll get that taken care of and then hopefully we can get started. So.
All right, moving on then to Article 7, which is a discussion of or really an update regarding status of the strategic planning process.
Yes, so we had the business leaders workshop this morning from 9 to 10. We had about 15 business leaders in the group. And then I received some emails from business owners that could not make it. So that was a good session. We have one workshop left in the series that will be this Thursday from 6 to 7:30 right here in this room. And the focus is going to be road safety and streetscapes. Hopefully it will be well attended. I have King County Road Commission representatives are supposed to be at that meeting as well. So I'm looking forward to that. You guys are all encouraged to attend that meeting if you can make it. So and then it's just a matter of them kind of compiling all the information, putting the plan together. It goes back out for some public reviews and comments. And before I think the final plan is approved, so
It's 6 o'clock.
6
on
o'clock,
Thursday.
yep, 6 o'clock here in the Wisner Center.
So Michelle and Grace and Sandra and I were at the first focus group regarding the village, and I thought it was really wonderful.
Yeah, it was well attended, and there was a lot of good discussion. I did go to the pathway and trails
parks.
focus group. And it was fairly well attended as well, and really good discussion. And I had to call into the last one.
I heard the last one was not quite as well.
Yeah, I saw there weren't as
so
many
maybe
people.
15. or-
But really good discussion in terms of, really forward thinking about the growth and development, and some concrete ideas about very specific areas and specific challenges. So I thought the discussion, even though there were less people, the discussion was really very meaningful.
And I suspect that this group on Thursday will be very
Yeah.
well attended, because this
I
is
would
really
think so.
the hot button issue. I am unfortunately not able to attend because I have a conflict that would bring me out of it early. So I'm glad to hear that some folks are planning on attending. We did talk about some of the topics at the village focus group, but having the road commission there to hear, I think it'll be really
Yeah.
helpful. It's exciting. We're coming to the
Yeah.
conclusion of all
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
Any questions about strategic planning process, where we are? All right, then, moving on to discuss and review map showing possible path from library to Tassel Park, Article 8.
So this has been discussed before, maybe about 10 years ago, we had this discussion, and it comes out of the vault every now and again. So, and I think as part of the recent strategic plan survey, we heard a lot of comments about connectivity, and especially from the library down to that Tassel Park area. So we pulled this out of the vault, and I just thought we could have a discussion on it tonight. So 10 years ago, when we looked at this, the township engineer and I walked the properties, and he provided, as you can see, about 5 comments regarding the path. It's not an easy path to do. There's a lot of topography issues back there. Certainly, you'd have to get some easements. You'd have to cross the drive to overlook Summit. And I know some of the residents up in that area are not excited about that, providing any type of easements. So there certainly are challenges with this pathway. And I think at the time, 10 years ago, when the DDA talked about it, the reason that they kind of, put it on hold, if you will, were security issues, walking across other people's property. And then it was a path that potentially, I suppose, would navigate people away from the businesses, from the storefronts on Old 28th Street. So at that time, we put it back on the shelf. We do have a couple easements, and there's a very rough sketch in the packet of where the path could potentially be constructed, but we do have a couple easements from Renee along back behind Portobello Road, and then the condos that, I can't remember the name of your condos back there, sorry. The cottages or your condos back behind Portobello Road.
Actually, I can't remember the name, but
Okay.
I never did. I sold the
Okay.
product, yeah.
But
So
along that area,
I should
and
know the
then
bluffs now.
I believe JT's, when they expanded, they provided an easement as well. So we have a couple easements from some property owners,
Are
but
the easements reflected by the dotted line, or is that just
No.
parking lot?
no, the
designation?
parking lot
Okay.
designations. So
Well, it
So-
seems that, it's been a need that's been articulated. It may be worthwhile to, if it's been 10 years since somebody went out and walked the path, maybe it's time to send somebody out there to walk it again, particularly given that we now know what the library is planning for its space.
Right.
Perhaps there's a different starting point that might avoid, minimize some of the nearness to the residences. I don't know.
Did we ever look about going behind Summit Point and then down to the park, since we already have a working sidewalk that comes down this way? Did we ever look at coming the backside?
I feel like we
I
did,
feel
and
like
there
we
was a
did too.
steepness issue, wasn't
Yeah.
there? Where they had to build a
Oh.
bridge and it was.
There's, yeah,
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah.
this whole area,
Yeah.
this
Alright.
whole area is very up and down.
Yeah.
Not that we should rule it out.
Yeah.
But,
No,
yeah.
but I think either you brought it up, that up, or Ben brought it up in a discussion we were having about that topography is really tough in here, and
Right.
that was one
It
of the
is.
big sort of barriers,
Right.
challenges.
Yeah, absolutely.
Question I have is, we get easements and then the public is using it. If there's issues, with drainage or people destroying some of the property, who's going to be liable?
Well,
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the
Potentially,
township.
That's a problem.
yeah,
And I think that could be potentially a bigger problem. 'Cause, with the typography, I'm concerned about drainage. And a pathway like that behind residents that we're having to get easements from. I don't know if I like that situation.
Yeah,
That's myself.
I agree. I remember being a part of this conversation more recently than 10 years ago.
I think we discussed it again in
And
2019.
I just remember there being more
Yeah.
cons than pros.
Well, and maybe there's some sort of middle ground where we have a more established reroute to the front of the businesses along Old 28, which is not a shortcut. It's a long
Yeah,
cut,
right.
but if we can explain to people that there's a way to get there,
Right.
you're just taking the scenic route around.
Right.
And
Based
and
on
have it better
future,
marked.
based on future discussions, this could change.
Sure. Exactly.
Hey, there are not sidewalks coming the other way from the other way from the library, coming around this way to get into the park. There aren't sidewalks, right? Currently.
No.
All the way
Down to Thorn.
Yeah, like
Thorn
coming around
Hills.
this way, because I know that where
I
the
don't
new,
think
where the new
so.
condos are, I know they had to put
Oh, there's
sidewalks
no s-
in there. And then, but
So-
they end, they stop, like past those
Right,
condos.
there's no sidewalk down Thornapple River Drive between Thorn Hills and Cascade Road. Is that where you're talking about
thinking
that?
like
Or on Thorn Hills.
Thorn Hills. Like,
So there's a bike path on Thorn Hills until it's from 28th Street to those new condos.
yeah.
Yeah,
but then it stops. So I feel like
Right.
we already have a sidewalk going around this way. We should have because people like to walk and bike, and it's not that big of a circle. You know what I mean? If people really want to get
No,
some
but
exercise.
Thornapple River Drive
Is a
is.
problem.
Is it?
Yes.
and we
that was
talked,
diplomatic.
yeah, we talked to those property owners when we were putting water sewer down there.
Yeah.
And we needed a lot of easements from them as well. It was a
Yeah.
very tricky pathway.
Yeah,
And the
Ben
property
said-
owners were not interested
No.
in
No, they said
providing
no.
those,
they were asked and they said no.
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Well, let's keep this in mind.
We can certainly look at it
Yeah.
again,
Mhm.
just
The idea
pathwise
of a
to
pathway,
see.
not necessarily this.
Right.
route.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
We can do more investigation,
Sure.
so,
Great.
okay.
Other questions or comments? About the path? All right, Article 9, review 2021 annual report.
So this is something that we have to do every year. This is required by the state of Michigan. And this is their template that they make us use. So really, it just talks about, when our authority was created and when our plan was created and when it's supposed to expire. And then we do have to get into some detail. And I know it's very small. I apologize. That's the template, and that's what happens when you print it out. But it does get into the tax increment revenue, what we've captured over the last year, and then what our expenditures are. And you can see we kind of break it down into membership and education and administration, engineering. The bus service is on that list and how much we pay for that. And then any projects, the Cascade Road Pathway, which we completed in 2021. Metro Cruise warm up and events, office equipment, and so forth. So it is fairly basic, if you will. And as you mentioned, as part of the strategic plan, we can certainly get into more details, but
It's really more a financial report.
this is a
It is,
financial
yeah.
report for the state of Michigan for the Treasury. This is what they require us to do. So
And I do see the merit of Mr. Merlin's comment that having a more substantive report that certainly we wouldn't submit to the state, but that would be something that we could report out to the public about the projects that we've worked on and what our plan might be. Is
Right.
something that I would like to see us.
And we
We could
actually,
put that on the website.
Sure, yeah, I mean, and we do, we have the list of.
We have our
We
list of
have it, it just isn't in a
projects.
formal report.
Right.
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 and we actually talked about that, not the last meeting, probably 2 or 3 meetings ago, when we were talking about goals and
Yep.
things like that.
Mhm.
To have something that is useful as a communication tool to the community.
Agreed. We'll have to add that to our list if it doesn't come forward directly through the strategic planning
I'll bring it
process.
up.
I mean, we have our inside person here, so. Make a note, make a note. Any other questions or comments regarding the 2021 annual report? All right, Article 10, we need to move into closed session to discuss the potential acquisition of property. And so in order to do that, it will require a motion from someone on the board and a second and a vote to move into closed session. And assuming that vote passes, we will move into the historical space. I don't remember the name of the room. Is it
History room.
History room.
Yep.
Just next door. And I'm assuming that the Zoom recording will continue in our absence, and then we will return to this space when our closed session has concluded.
I
So,
make a motion to move the history room for a closed session.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
I'm back, right?
yes, we're coming back. I'm not.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Your name is on this one, I think.
Oops.
Oh,
Yeah.
no wonder I felt so empowered.
I do kind of look like a Richard.
Oh, they can mistake us as twins, right?
That's right.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I will entertain a motion to reopen our meeting.
I make a motion to reopen the open meeting.
Thank you.
I second.
Renee, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Do we still have anyone on Zoom? No? Okay. Moving on then to Article 11, any other business?
Just that the next meeting is May 17th. Should we need one. So, and then a quick update on the LED light retrofit project. And it looks like maybe we have some good news finally for that. We should be getting some of the fixtures mid-April, and then 3 or 4 weeks later, get the rest of the batch. So hopefully by Memorial Weekend or shortly thereafter, we can have everything in place and we can finally get that project going.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
Questions for Sandra? Any other items to discuss?
I do not.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to conclude our regular meeting.
I move to close the meeting,
To conclude the meeting?
to conclude the
I knew
meeting.
what you meant.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thanks, everybody. So we now have our informational meeting, which will be short and sweet because we don't have anyone actually listening, but we do have to do it because we're required to do it by state law. So I will call our informational meeting to order and ask Sandra to move forward with Article 2, the review of projects completed in 2021.
So we didn't have a lot of projects in 2021. We did finish the Cascade Road path, which went from 28th Street just past Cascade Hospital for Animals. So we finished that up, and then I don't know if it's a project completed so much as something that we've just been doing, but the bus service, we certainly had that as a project, if you will, in 2021 as well. That's really the extent of everything for 2021. If you're looking at Article 3, future plans, projects for this year, 2022, what we have on the books is, of course, the LED retrofit, which is really a hangover from maybe 2019, but I'm calling it a 2022 project now. We have our flower beds, landscape bed, our pots project that we will be working on this year. And then we have to do our sealing of the stamped concrete in the village, again at 28th and Cascade Road, as well as Thornapple River Drive and Cascade Road. So that should get taken care of this year as well. I think any future plans certainly will come to light as we wrap up the strategic plan. So hopefully we'll have some more information on future plans, maybe at the fall informational meeting. So that's really all I have for you.
Wonderful. I do not believe that we have any visitors or anyone who wishes to speak as to any items. And so unless the board has comments or questions, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this informational meeting. We're on a
I
roll.
move to conclude the informational meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thanks very much, everybody. This
Thank
might
you.
take the cake for one of the longer meetings that we had. So I appreciate you